Senator, have you seen the video?
I have seen the video, and it is deeply disturbing. I am mostly concerned with the fact that we are putting our American servicemen and women in jeopardy here. We're putting them in jeopardy in case they ever get shut down. We're putting them in legal jeopardy. They could be brought up in international criminal courts. And so what we're doing here is taking those professionals, or utmost professionals, and putting them into harm's way. And that's what bothers me the most about what Pete Hegseth is doing. He is the least qualified Secretary of Defense in our nation's history, and he's very cavalier about doing things. Fact of the matter is, only Congress can decide that we can go to war, and there was no such declaration made.
I just want to make sure that that I get this accurate. You have seen the classified video of this particular strike, the first strike, and then the double tap, as it's known.
No, I've just seen what's been available in the media.
Okay.
I've read the full report, but I've not seen the actual video.
Boy. So we got to talk about some fireworks that took place on ABC News in this interview between George Stephanopoulos and Republican Senator Eric Schmitt from Missouri, who went off on George Stephanopoulos for trying to get him with a gotcha question, because that is what the mainstream liberal media does. They will interview Democrats and they will not push back at all against Democrat talking points. And then when a Republican comes on, all of a sudden now they want to play tough guy, right? They want to ask a whole bunch of follow-up questions. They want to have a whole bunch of pushback. And this Republican senator wasn't having it, right? He decided to humiliate George Stephanopoulos on his network because of the fact that George Stephanopoulos just had a Democrat on and just gave a softball interview to the Democrat, let the Democrat say whatever, no pushback whatsoever. And then when a Republican comes on about the same topic, again, George Stephanopoulos wants to play tough guy, right? And this Republican senator set him straight. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Of Missouri, a member of the Armed Services Committee in the Senate. And Senator, let me just begin where we left off with Congressman Smith. Do you support this pardon of the former Honduran president?
I'm not familiar with the facts or circumstances, but I think what's telling here is to try to imply that somehow President Trump is soft on drug smuggling is just ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. He's provided border security like we've never seen before. And the fact is, these cartels now, because the southern border is closed, they've gone to the high seas. So President Trump is acting with his core Article 2 powers. No serious legal expert would doubt that the president has authority to blow narco-terrorists out of the water who are poisoning 100,000 Americans every year. If you watch the SEC championship game yesterday, the Big Ten championship game, combine those two stadiums with the number of people there, that's how many people are dying each and every year from the poison that's coming from these narco-terrorists. So the fact is, George, President Trump has been delegated the authority by Congress to designate terrorist organizations. He's done that. He sent a letter to Congress saying he was going to initiate these strikes. We've had regular briefings about it, including from Secretary of State Rubio, including from other high-ranking officials in the Department of Defense. He's executing those. And so now what we have now are Democrats who have such X-ray vision and clairvoyance that they know the intentions of narco-terrorists on boats, yet we're so blind to see that they had a president for 4 years that was operating as a vegetable in Joe Biden. So, forgive me if I'm a little skeptical that this isn't all about politics and trying to take out Secretary Hegseth. That's what this whole thing's been about, George. They didn't want him confirmed. They didn't want a realist in place. They didn't want to shift from their pet projects around the world and trying to build democracies in the sands of the Middle East by the barrel of a gun. We have core national interests at stake, the homeland in the Western Hemisphere, and the rise of China. That's what this administration is focused on. The Democrats are just upset about that, and they try to create some controversy each and every week, and it goes nowhere.
Facts. That is what it's about, right? This whole, outrage about these boats, right? These narco boats. Again, these people are just trying to go after Pete Hegseth. That's what they're trying to do. It's a witch hunt. They're trying to find any way they can to go after him, to make him resign and make him step down, to try to destroy the Trump administration. Let's be real. These people are now boohoo whining crying. This is what they're saying now. They're saying, well, see, if Trump can kill narco-terrorists from Venezuela, he can kill American citizens.
I mean, look, the President of the United States and his Secretary of Defense are conducting murder on the high seas. They're committing murder, and Americans should care. Like, look, none of us like drug traffickers, but we have laws that say that drug traffickers don't get summarily executed. And if it's happening off the coast of America with people that we don't know. Just give it time before Donald Trump starts doing this same kind of thing to people we do know right here at home. It matters if the president of the United States breaks the law.
Yeah. Imagine being a Democrat concerned about the president potentially killing American citizens, right? When Obama literally did just that, right? When it comes to his drone strikes in the Middle East, Obama launched drone strikes on American citizens and killed them with no trial, no due process, no opportunity for them to prove their innocence. He did that unilaterally. Okay? So if Democrats are talking about prosecuting people in the Trump administration over killing narco terrorists from Venezuela, then we need to get those charges against Obama, right? Everybody that was involved with the Obama administration, his military, right, his Pentagon, we need to go ahead and get the charges against them going, right, if Democrats want to play this game. Because, again, Obama set the precedent for all of this. It's funny how, again, there was no outrage when Obama was doing much worse. He was doing way worse things when he was in office. No outrage whatsoever. These people didn't care. They could care less. Now Trump gets it off and he's protecting the American people from narco drug traffickers, and now all of a sudden, Trump is committing murder on the high seas. Get out of my face, bro. Right? Like you're never going to convince me with this. Okay? These people have no room to talk.
What do you mean you're not familiar with the facts and circumstances of the pardon? It's been well reported all across the country. He's the former president of Honduras. He was convicted of conspiring to bring in 400 tons of cocaine into the United States, also guns and other materials. It's been front page news across the country. Aren't you curious about that?
Well, I'm curious about your pushback on that particular point. With your previous guest, you had zero pushback because he's giving the Democrat talking points like you spew every single week, which is probably why your ratings are so bad. But to make the point, what I'm saying is that you're trying to divert here the attention from what the American people actually support. 75% of Americans support us blowing narco terrorists out of the water in the Caribbean who are trying to poison Americans. There's no real legal debate about the ability to do that. Now, you could have a policy discussion about it, which now you see the Democrats pivoting from the second strike and the war crimes allegation to really what this whole thing is about. Should we be doing it in the first place? I have way more sympathy for my friends, my cousins, my neighbors, those people who've been poisoned by these narco terrorists, people who've been skinned alive by these cartels as they bring people to the United States, than I do for these narco terrorists. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. So there's legal justification for it. He's doing it. We do have more of a focus on our interests now in the Western Hemisphere, and I'm thankful for that. Do you support the pardon of the convicted drug smuggler or not? George, like I said, what we're talking about here are the narco terrorists poisoning Americans. This attempt to try to focus on a pardon is classic because you've lost the debate now on the narco-terrorist question.
Facts.
Because at the beginning of the week, you had Democrats actually on camera saying you should disobey orders. That's what Senator Kelly and Slotkin were saying. You should disobey orders. And then they went so far as to say that if you don't do that, you might get prosecuted down the road. It's hard to sort of overstate how problematic that is for the chain of command and what it is for a military. The Democrats had their shot at all this, and it was rejected. They wanted to have DEI struggle sessions in our military, transgender surgeries, recruitment was way down. The fact is, under President Trump and now Secretary Hegseth, recruitment is sky high, morale is sky high. They're upset about that because they had an agenda that said that America could be everywhere all at once all the time. Now we have a president that's a realist, focusing on core national interest, including protecting Americans from being poisoned by the narco-terrorists.
That's what we really should be talking about. We really should be talking about the fact that the president actually cares about the American people losing their lives here at home, right? And that our core national defense strategy has shifted towards worrying about our side of the globe, right? And keeping foreign influences out of our side of the globe, rather than fighting conflicts on the other side of the world that really ain't got that much to do with us, right? I think that that's really what we should be talking about, because again, you know, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of Americans losing their lives every single year because of this, and we have a president that's doing something about it, right? And you know, some people say, well, it's really not about the drugs; it's about overthrowing Maduro. And I'm like, well, if we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone or 3 stones or whatever we're doing, right? And we can stop the drugs from coming in. Also overthrow a socialist dictator that's in bed with China and Russia, and also cause Cuba to collapse as well too. That'd be great, right? That'd be awesome for us, right? I mean, let's be real. I'm trying to figure out what's the problem with that. That to me sounds smart, sounds efficient to me. That's what it sounds like to me. It ain't nothing to be mad about. But again, the media, they want to make it about everything else. They want to make it about this part. Now, I don't know anything about this part. I don't know. The president they claim that this guy was politically prosecuted by Biden, right? This is what he claimed. They claim it was a political persecution. I don't know, right? I mean, there could be a number of reasons why this dude was pardoned. I don't know. But what I do know is that is, again, a distraction from the actual real conversation, which is about the fact that the president has now shifted our national security concerns to our side of the world, and we are actually doing something about the drugs that are coming into this country, killing the American people, okay?
Just to clarify, the Democrats you talked about were talking about illegal orders. They were specific about saying it was illegal orders that they were talking about.
Sure, but when you press them on what orders are they talking about, they had no answer, except to say that somehow they should be guessing along the way. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. And this is kind of the rabbit hole of Trump derangement syndrome, is that they can't let this thing go. They can't believe that he won. They didn't want Hegseth to be the Secretary of War. They fought it. He was their number one target. They failed at that. And so now you just have a series of issues that come up every week to try to undermine this president and the Secretary of War. And it's not working. They're going to carry out their mission. They executed another strike of a narco-terrorist just this past week. Those will continue, and they're completely authorized. I reviewed the 40-plus page memo by the Office of Legal Counsel. There's JAG officers in these rooms, George, every time there's a strike. So again, the narrative at the beginning of the week that this is war crimes, that's clearly fallen away, and now the Democrats are peddling another lie.
Yeah.
You mentioned Secretary Hegseth. Here's a quote from the Department of Defense Inspector General report on that release of sensitive information over the Signal app. According to the Inspector General, the Secretary sent information identifying the quantity and strike times of manned U.S. aircraft over hostile territory over an unapproved, unsecured network approximately 2 to 4 hours before the execution of those strikes. The Secretary's actions created a risk to operational security that could have resulted in failed U.S. mission objectives and potential harm to U.S. pilots. Isn't that a concern?
I reviewed the IG report, and it's a nothing burger. The fact is there was allegations that this was confidential or classified information, I should say. It wasn't. There was no operational integrity problems. That operation Rough Rider was executed flawlessly. So was, by the way, Midnight Hammer. So you can't really call that into a question. There's no confidential or classified information that was disclosed. And again, I think the bigger concern that you didn't have a hue and cry about from the Democrats was when Secretary Lloyd Austin went in for a medical procedure, was incapacitated, and didn't tell the president. Literally, we had a Secretary of Defense that wasn't on duty and nobody knew about it. Like, that's a real problem. This was a nothing burger, and that's what the IG report that I read last week in the SCIF indicated.
It said it was a risk to operational security.
But it wasn't. It wasn't. There was no... Listen, remember when this scandal, so-called scandal started, it was about classified information being disclosed. It wasn't classified information. So again, you pivot to this sort of sensitive information, but there was no risk. There was no risk. And by the way, I'll point out, Signal is approved by the U.S. government for communications. And so if you want to have a broader discussion about that, we probably can. But I think the bigger issue was, in the previous administration, you had real operational risk. You had a Secretary of Defense that was incapacitated in a surgery, and nobody knew about it for days. That's a problem.
Senator, thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks, George.
Roundtable's up next.
Yeah. So you see that, you heard that, right? He told George Stephanopoulos, he said, this is why you have low ratings, because you peddle Democrat talking points. And that's what they do, man. Every single interview, bro. The interview this dude did with a Democrat, zero pushback, zero questions, zero criticisms, right? They just let Democrats spew and say whatever, right? They never have anything to say against it. But a Republican comes on, all of a sudden now, they want to get tough. And this guy, I think, put George Stephanopoulos in his place. And you love to see it, right? You love to see it. Because we don't need to apologize for defending this country from narco-terrorists. We don't have to apologize at all, okay? And I'm glad that you have at least some Republicans who are standing 10 toes down on this and not falling for the bait from the mainstream liberal media. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.